This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, and I'm Jason Glick, and tonight it's all about the Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah, because with Halloween coming up, I figured, hey, you know what? It'd be a good time to talk about scary comic books and manga.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, it's like really, it's an extraordinarily short list for that kind of thing because, you know, it's like a lot of stuff they classify as horror comics and manga. I just don't find scary for some reason. I mean, it's like I'll look at this stuff and I think, you know, it's not bad, but I mean, was I scared by this? I mean, talk about stuff like 30 Days of Night, the like the vampire serial by written by Steve Niles, art by Ben Templesmith. That everyone thought that had a great horror concept. I mean, vampires in Alaska, where it's like night for 30 days.
Yeah,
and it's like it's great concept. But I mean, it's got like moody art, some nice, occasionally witty writing by Niles, and well, it's more like it's just like an action movie rather than just like straight up horror. I mean, like there's not a whole lot of actual scariness to there, like despite Templesmith's great art. But still, that means that it's, I don't know if it's just me or if it's just the way that you just can't, that like we were talking about, like how like you can't actually do horror in anime, like
right. Not very well. Then, and there, although there is a genre called horror anime, but it's not really like creep up on ya anime or creep up on ya horror. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because like a lot of this stuff, I mean, it's like it doesn't try to be that scary at all. But there, however, not saying that not everything is not scary, because there are the very few exceptions, and I can talk about, well, I can at least name at least two off the top of my head right now.
And it's, we'll say Halloween themed. Well, not Halloween themed, but like in the spirit of Halloween.
In the spirit of Halloween, that this is stuff you actually want to read and scare yourself, or at the very least scare your kids.
Right.
Yeah. Because like I'm starting out the first with one of the was regarded as one of the greatest comic book series for American superheroes. This would be Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Oh, right. Alan Moore, the guy who did the Watchmen.
Guy did Watchmen, V for Vendetta. It's like all that great stuff. And this is a series that actually got his start in the U.S. because basically, like, DC was like made a big exploratory search to the U.K. back in the 80s for writers and artists to take over some of their titles. And they just figured, hey, you know, this Alan Moore guy, he's pretty good. Let's give him Swamp Thing. It's like no one's reading that right now, so they gave it to him. And he wound up changing the face of comics. Whether or not for the better, it's still being argued, but the way he did it in Swamp Thing, like, he pulled it off really well. Because for those of you who don't know, the basic premise of Swamp Thing is that researcher Alec Holland was researching something called the biorestorative formula, something that will basically be able to grow vegetables and plant life just about anywhere in the world. And like, but the problem is, like, some people didn't like that, so they just went and blew up his lab, killed his wife, fun stuff. And then the formula basically turned him into the Swamp Thing as he was running out in flames from his laboratory that night. Now, the series went on for a while, and then it was relaunched in the 80s as Saga of the Swamp Thing. Alan Moore took over and basically killed him in his first issue, which isn't which has yet to be reprinted, but it's coming in the forthcoming new hardcover edition of the series. Basically, his first issue of the Saga of the Swamp Thing basically showed you how the whole everything you know about the hero is wrong type of story. And with the way Alan Moore did it, he pulled it off. It's a textbook example of how to pull this thing off perfectly. Because basically, he shows you that, well, you see, Alan Moore, like Alec Holland's great hope was that he'll eventually be able to find a way to reverse the effects of the formula, to basically show that bring back being a human again. But in this first issue, in his second issue actually, the anatomy lesson, after his corpse is being examined by Jason Woodrue, the Floronic Man, Woodrue realizes that, hey, you know what? Alec Holland isn't like a human who's actually a plant. He's actually a plant who thinks he's a human, because after exhuming his body, find out that none of the organs that are inside actually work the way like a human's organs should. I mean, he's a plant.
Right.
Like, he's just like someone who's absorbed the consciousness of Alec Holland, but Holland is actually is dead and buried, and now it's like you just have this plant running around thinking it's a man. Yes. And the first couple of stories, basically, like Alan Moore, it's about reestablishing like like Swamp Thing's presence in the world, like showing him how he can actually stand up to the Floronic Man, who basically goes crazy and starts to try and establish the dominion of plant over man. And in the second arc, basically how the demon Etrigan shows up after Holland's girlfriend or quasi girlfriend, Abigail Arcane, starts working in a home for the mentally challenged kids that has actually been possessed by a demon. Now this is great stuff. Highly recommend for anyone. But when you actually want to get the actual horror, wait to the second volume, which is Love and Death. And now it's a very scary series because in the second volume, Abigail's boyfriend winds up making a deal with a devil or a devil, in fact. It's like someone who's out of history with the Swamp Thing to come back to life and uses his body as a vehicle for that. And he also brings like several very scary people along with him. But it's extremely creepy to, like, once Abigail slowly realizes that her boyfriend isn't the man that she once knew, that is actually someone much more sinister, much more scary, and the fact that he's got her stink, she's got his stink all over her, and the length she goes to try and get rid of that, like skin crawling in the best sense. Yeah. And Moore's run on the series is reprinted in 6 volumes, and while Love and Death is definitely the best one, they are all worth buying because it's like I said, these stories basically inject a more mature sensibility to American comics, and it's debated. It's been debated whether actually bring maturity to comic books has actually been a good thing over the years. Because I mean, you look at where things are right now, and you think, well, yeah. Like, everyone's arguing, like, do comic books essentially need maturity, or do superhero comics need maturity, or should they just be like great big, like 4-color spectacles, like appealing to the masses?
You mean like Superman? Always
exactly.
Being a Boy Scout.
Yeah, because just like these are actually it should actually be appealing to mature audiences like us, like the fan men,
right?
or just to be like. Appealing to the kids and just selling in huge quantities.
Right.
Well, you can just keep having that argument, but still, like Moore's work on the Swamp Thing, it's a landmark in American comics, and highly recommended to anyone.
All right.
And it makes you regret the fact that DC went and pissed the hell out of Alan Moore over the royalty payments years later. The fact that he'll never ever write for them again. Okay, but let's see, that's American comics right there. Now, Japanese comics, however, is a much different story. I mean, like I said, if you see like J-horror stuff like The Ring, like you'll notice that, like a lot of like J-horror stuff subscribes to the belief that that it doesn't need to make sense as long as it's scary.
Right.
The fact that it doesn't make sense makes it scarier. Now, I was listening to my Dark Horse podcast again, and I realized I made a grave omission.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Because I left out mentioning one of the best 3-volume series that the Dark Horse has published recently. And this is Mail by Hosui Yamazaki. Now, Hosui Yamazaki is the artist of the Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service.
Okay.
And he does great work there. But with Mail, though, it's a completely different beast. Because while his work on Kurosagi is very clean and very morbid at times, in Mail, it's actually really goddamn scary. Because he's got a great sense. Well, let me back up for a second. See, because basically Mail is the story of Reiji Akiba. He's a freelance exorcist who basically is at this German class gun. Like, it's, if you've played Resident Evil before, he's basically got a Red 9 gun going around that uses to exorcise ghosts.
Okay.
And it's a very episodic series. I mean, like it's every chapter is basically like different ghosts he encounters each week. And now it's like that formula could get old, and I think it's probably a good thing that they stopped it for 3 volumes. But still, these are 3 quite scary volumes because Yamazaki has got a great sense of just evoking a very real setting. Just like it's very very natural, very believable, and like, hey, this could actually be like a nice real world setting like you see in a magazine somewhere. And then just introducing a supernatural element to these settings that you just go, that shouldn't be there. That's wrong. That's no. It's extremely creepy when you just got this 2-page spread of a woman's apartment, and you just see this head bending around from the causeway, looking at the woman, and it's just
creepy.
Yeah, you don't want to see it there. I mean, it's scary. I mean, it's like it's not right. It's the thing that should not be.
Right.
And it's like, that's
what's wrong with this picture.
Yes, exactly. And he pulls that stuff off so well throughout these 3 volumes. And I mean, it gets kind of repetitive after a while, but still, I mean, like, the first volume is the scariest, and then you get kind of diminishing returns as volumes 2 and 3 go on. But it's still, like I said, if you're going to read, I always want to tell you, if you read this with the lights off, then you can read it.
That's right. Get an itty bitty book light or something like that.
It's great scary series, and highly recommend it to anyone. And if you like, remember, Reiji Akiba also shows up in volume 4 of the Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service, and that episode he shows up in actually turns out to be one of the creepier episodes of the series. Yeah, but not all manga is like that. I mean, it's like male is more the exception to the rule more than anything else.
Right.
Now, I mentioned Junji Ito in passing.
Right. And
I've said that he's got some scary in his work, but also a whole lot of stupid as well. That is exemplified in Uzumaki, a series about a spiral, like virus idea or mem that possesses the town and just like creeps the hell out of people. I mean, like I had to dig back in my memory to remember this, because like you get some scary stuff, like how this one girl's grandparent just say, oh, there's spirals everywhere. Look, I can bend my eyes in a spiral. I can just like break all my bones and curl up in here in a spiral and die. I mean, the first volume is extremely creepy. I mean, it's like, I'm thinking, like, good lord, like, everything they were saying about this thing being scary is true. And then you get to the last volume, which basically involves a girl's hair, just taking on a life of its own, being in various spiral designs. That's kind of stupid. And unfortunately, it kind of goes that's the way sign of things that come, because it's just goes downhill straight from there. I mean, it gets very, very repetitive, very stupid. It stops being believable after a certain point. Like at one point when the main female character is stuck in a hospital for some reason, and then all these other ladies start showing up with drills in order to drill into people and take their blood, and she gets the hell out of the hospital in that episode. I'm thinking no, you don't stay in that town. You get the hell out of Dodge right now. But she doesn't. And you're thinking okay, that's it. I can't believe any of this right here. I mean, it's anything they do in the series after that. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, let's see what happens next. Oh, you got guys riding whirlwinds, fighting against each other. You got people turning into snails because the snails have a spiral shell. Oh, that's great. And then the ending. Well, by the time I got to the ending, I realized nothing they could have done could have redeemed my opinion of the series. Mm-hmm. But some people think it's great, and they're welcome to their opinion. But overall, it's generally not worth it.
Beware of spirals.
Yeah, exactly. And Dark Horse has also done some additional stuff from Kazuo Umezu, who's I talked about previously in another podcast where I discussed his best known series, The Drifting Classroom, and they did 3 volumes of another series for him called Scary Book. And, well, if you remember what I said about The Drifting Classroom, that how it'll mainly appeal to kids who aren't that who probably be more receptive of the level of scarcity he's going for in this. I mean, you've got in the first volume, Faces, where you've got first volume, Reflections. You've got a girl who her reflection comes to life and steals her identity. Then you got volume 2, which is actually pretty decent, Insects, where a girl has a pathological fear of butterflies, and we start to see her stepmom as a butterfly. But there's actually a good reason for that. I mean, it's 2 is probably the best one, and probably the only one I actually recommend that you pick up if you found it in the half-off bin somewhere. Yeah, 3, Faces, which is... Oh, yeah, that's where I got that title from. Is basically, let's see, a girl like there's two sisters. One gets her face injured in a horrible accident. And she has the other girl bring victims to her in order to say her killing lust or something. I don't know, but I mean, I understand there's more volumes of Scary Book, but like I said before in the Dark Horse podcast, there's 3 volumes, and it seems to be the limit for their stuff that doesn't sell all that well. And with Scary Book, I can see why they stopped at 3.
So Scary Book is the literal Japanese title of those, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they translate it in English. But still, I mean, it's for the actual nature of the series. I mean, it's a perfectly worthy title.
So it's basically just a set of it's an anthology of stories.
Yes, an anthology of stories. And as it is, I think I don't mind that they stopped 3 right there. Yeah. However, Dark Horse does have another horror. Well, it's a horror comedy in the sense that The Evil Dead is a horror comedy. I speak of The Goon by Eric Powell.
Okay.
The Goon is the main character of the series, and he's just this working class guy who just goes it's a 20s era setting, and it's just him and his buddy Frankie going around beating up zombies and other crazy creatures all across town. And Powell has got a great, crazy sense of humor for a lot of this stuff. I mean, he'll just bring up inflatable chickens, it's the demons who have sex with them, and also the venerable phrase "knife to the eye," which solves everything.
Right.
I mean, it's a great, crazy series, and while it does get more serious as the series goes on, it doesn't lose its great, crazy energy. I mean, it's let's see, basically it starts in Volume 0, which reprints the stuff that Powell did before coming to Dark Horse, and up to Volume 5 right now, plus the Chinatown graphic novel. And like I said, it's extremely goofy in parts, but it's got a great, crazy sensibility for all the insanity that you can think of when thinking about zombies. Zombies who start singing "Tomorrow" from Annie because they can.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's even got following that Hellboy shows up at one point. Just he just gets transported to the Goons universe just to beat up on some squid flying in balloons. Yeah, so I highly recommend this if you're looking for some laughs on this Halloween with a nice creepy edge to them.
Just to get you in the mood for Halloween.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I've understood that it is being made into a CG animated movie. Though personally, it's I'd like to see this be live action because I can see Ron Perlman doing a great Goon.
Yeah,
he's already done Hellboy, but he'd be perfect for the Goon as well. Yeah, and with that, I'm gonna leave for this Halloween podcast. And hey, even if you don't pick up any of the stuff I told you about, at least find some good scary stuff of your own.
There you go.
Okay.
We'll see you next week.
Night.
Bye.